I don't know about you guys, but I refuse to feel bad or weird for listening to video game music from time to time. Whenever I think about the vastness of video game music and its evolution through the years, I always think of Koji Kondo, who when he first started was inspired by arcade and tabletop games to create an 8-bit digital sound that many would remember for years to come. Today, Koji Kondo is undoubtedly one of the best video game composers of all time, and has one of the best track records from producing OSTs for video game franchises you may be familiar with, such as Super Mario World, Star Fox, and Legend of Zelda. For longtime producers like Koji Kondo, there's a high level of production expected in order to make video game music that a lot of people often fail to understand. Because music made for video games is not often center stage in terms of its context, it's really easy for people to deduce video game music down to something like synthesized elevator music. And while in most cases it may not be considered socially acceptable to play Nintendo music on aux, video game music can be just as good and just as listenable to some of the tracks we hear on the radio today. But if you're still one of those hesitant to have a Mario track appear in your Spotify top songs at the end of the year, I want to drop some knowledge on why video game music should be embraced with open arms and given the appreciation it truly deserves. Because video game music is really simple in melody, it might give the impression that producing a song for a video game is really easy. However, that couldn't be further from the truth. Video game music composers face the challenging task of crafting a soundtrack that not only sounds good, but also seamlessly integrates with the game's atmosphere. It's a complex endeavor that demands significant time, research, and inspiration. In her enlightening 2014 novel, A Composer's Guide to Game Music, author Winifred Phillips delves into the intricate art of composing music for video games and explains why the process differs considerably from other mediums. She states, "As video game composers, we are required to twist our thought process to encompass probabilities and variables that are unique to video game design. Our music must be written with principles of fluidity and rules of reaction and interaction embedded in its compositional framework, in ways that bear little relation to the methods through which film and television music connects with its audience." Video game composers face the challenge of not only creating cohesive and captivating music, but also creating a sound that mirrors the player's physical experience. Video game composers often achieve this by creating music that aims to alter the psychological condition of the player by use of common leitmotifs, such as changes in frequencies or tonalities. Have you ever been playing a video game and suddenly you enter an area and before you notice a final boss is waiting for you just a few steps ahead? You might first notice that the music changes in tempo or pitch. This is a common tactic and an important inclusion which will signal to you as a player that danger is ahead without blatantly telling you. And you as the player have the autonomy to tread forward into the danger or retreat to a calmer area where you notice the music returns to its normal state. In a more specific example, in the game Enter the Matrix, the game is accompanied by mostly sound effects, and music only appears when a mission reaches its climax. You may not notice it, but when you're so used to only hearing stomps and beams, and then all of a sudden music starts playing out of nowhere, you inadvertently are more concentrated. You might grab your controller a little bit tighter. You might reposition yourself in the seat so that you're closer to the screen. With this, you're playing right into the hands of the composers, and that's the power of music in video games. But that's not the only power of video game music. Let's try this. I'm gonna hum a few starting notes to a really popular tune, and let's see if you know how to finish it. Ready? That one was really simple, so if you couldn't piece that one together, let's try one with a little bit more notes. I'm not the best hummer, so I'm sorry that was a little bit off key. So if you couldn't piece them together, they were the Super Mario Bros. Theme and the theme to Animal Crossing. But if you were able to catch what these tunes are off my bad humming alone, you may understand how nostalgia can create emotional pairings and allow it so that hearing 3 simple notes, do, 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 can immediately signal us to piece together an entire song in our mind. In music, this phenomenon is called hauntology, which is loosely defined as a stylistic feature that evokes cultural memory and aesthetics of the past. The fact that we can hear these melodies and instantly recall their name or the specific scene they accompany speaks to the power of recognition and how video game music in the long run becomes not just a song, but a cherished memory. This leads to my next point. Why do people listen to video game music anyway? Koji Kondo, who I mentioned earlier in the video for producing some of video games' most iconic tracks, stated in a 2007 interview that his ultimate goal as a video game composer is to create memorable melodies regardless of the tools he has. Reading this quote for the first time, I was reminded of a distant memory. Growing up, my all-time favorite part of video games was getting to the last battle where you came face to face with the final boss. After staying up long hours to play the game, there was no better feeling than finally being able to say you won. After doing all that work and finally being able to see the credits roll, you're met with a sense of accomplishment, which is enhanced by the victory music, and everything is just so happy and joyous, and there's a sense of relief knowing that you finish, but also sadness knowing that it's over. And then years down the line, you might randomly have a melody from that game pop into your head, and you might not recall the name of the melody, but you do remember where you heard it, when you heard it. And that moment, you might recall that same sense of excitement you got when you booted up a new game for the first time, or that sense of accomplishment you got right when you finished it. And that feeling of remembering being a child without worries, just in your room on your DS again, well, that's nice to think about. Video game music is designed to be nostalgic. As we grow older and our lives become busier, we often have less time to fire up our gaming consoles and revisit those cherished games that brought us so much joy as kids. We become immersed in the ebb and flow of everyday life, making it challenging to reconnect with our roots in the times when happiness was just a power button away. Sometimes I think it's just easier to plug into our headphones, tune to the music of our childhood, and reminisce about the blissful moments of gathering with friends for Smash battles, collecting rings in Sonic, neglecting our Nintendo dogs for the 100th time. Sorry, buddy. The beauty of video game music lies not only in its simplicity, but also its ability to transport us to another world. It serves as a vessel for nostalgia, a portal to our fondest memories, and a gentle reminder of the joy we experience in pixelated realms. So with that being said, listen to video game music, embrace your inner child, and don't be afraid to play Nintendo music on Oxman. I'm sure everyone will love you for it. In the meantime, comment below what your favorite video game song is and why it's important to you. Personally, I like, oh my god, how'd you get in here?